Hello, welcome to episode 5 of I'm Fine, a chat between myself, Damo, and serial ranker, Mark.
How are you doing, Damo?
Very good, thank you.
I've got to get in first.
Yeah, we haven't done that's in a minute. We're doing that bit.
Yeah,
in a minute.
yeah.
That's right.
I know. Too soon.
Okay, too early.
Common problem.
Chat around the subjects of wealth, health, well-being, fitness, sport, conspiracy, and 19th century masturbation objectors, amongst other things.
True.
A real broad brush.
You had a further look at him, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
Maybe later.
But yeah, we might dig into him. We're all work in progress, and this podcast is no exception. In short, it's a poke at our perfectly imperfect lives, and if we can make just one person feel like they're not alone in all this madness, then our work here is done. I kind of tripped up on the word imperfectly last week.
Yes, and consistently
Brilliant,
did it again this week.
And we're about consistency. So coming up in this episode, we've got warm-up and stretch. We've got some bookmarks and apologies, actually, from last week.
Host of apologies.
Yeah. In Work-Life Ballet, we eventually talk about imposter... Okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. We've got imposter syndrome, that we've been meaning to speak about for the last few episodes. And in Drop and Give Me 20, we've got a listicle for the first time. Top 5 favourite workouts. I just had a panic because I can't remember whether I've written them down or not. But hey, let's roll with it. Right? So how are you? How's this morning? Do you want to talk about this morning?
I think this morning might... I'm going to clear my throat first.
I can edit that out.
Edit. I think this morning... I think I don't want to just launch in and go, this has been this morning. It's been a very full morning. Very full morning. And... I think it'll just pop up later. Okay. I might just allude to it. I don't think I want to start some...
We can sprinkle it along.
Yeah, and it does link in with my top 5, so it might...
Okay.
There is an obvious link there, so maybe leave it till then, have some proper structure.
This isn't a visual medium.
No.
So just to paint it, there'll be some painting of pictures today,
okay.
I think.
Paint away.
Just to... you're sat with your guns out. Which I've seen them before. They normally come out about 3 games into our tennis.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get yourself...
Intimidation.
Yeah. You've just come from the track.
I have just come from the track. The guns aren't what they were. The guns need
They're still
work.
Pretty,
Thank you.
They're making me feel sweaty. I actually put on some aftershave for you today.
Yeah.
Yeah, because...
we were talking about fragrance of clients, weren't we?
Well, yeah.
Well, also...
do I have a... I don't know, we talked about clients and the time they turn up, but I don't think we got onto what they smell like.
When you came for your session this week, we had a highly fragranced client beforehand that you went up and sniffed.
Yeah, well...
after.
Yeah, well, I arrived and I could smell you.
Yeah.
And I think I complimented you on your...
Well, you laughed when I said it was body butter. That's what you said. You laughed as if that was humorous.
Yeah.
You're not a body butter boy.
No, I just have... I'm a visual person, and I think I just imagine you applying it.
With a spatula.
So that's probably why it kind of took me aback.
Okay.
But
I'm
not familiar, no.
Okay.
Well, is that what you smell of? Is that
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
It's nice.
It's one with argan oil, I think.
Right, that sounds like a metal.
It's with an A rather than... It's from a nut. I went to an argan oil cooperative in Morocco.
What, this week?
Not to get the body butter.
All right.
It was a women only... They basically break these nuts to get the oil out, and it's now become quite a...
Who?
The women in the cooperative.
Okay.
We went there to look at the business model, really. Well, we didn't. We went there as tourists and to get stung for
Okay.
You're
on the tourist conveyor belt. You're on the tourist conveyor belt, and we happened to find out about body butter in the process.
We did, and they were next to the goats in trees. You seen goats
like
in trees? Yeah. No, and must be in other countries as well, but in this part of Morocco, I think there's been on an advert, and it's been people going like, "Is that for real or is it CGI?" And it is. It's goats that climb trees.
They just hang out in the trees. Okay.
So it is interesting to see because it's sort of, they haven't naturally got hands. I don't know if you've looked at goats, but they tend to They're almost
I've been aware for a
hands-free.
while. They are sans hands.
I didn't know if you studied goats or not at
Not at
university.
any. No,
So-
did you?
No.
I'm not even
As
sure
we know
it's
from last week, I didn't do anything at
You didn't pay
university.
attention. You could have done. You could have masters in goat science,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we'd never really.
That's
know.
leading into the apologies,
It
isn't
is, isn't it? It reminded me of a blog. There is a blog called Goths in Trees.
Okay,
It's just pictures of goths up trees.
right.
Probably slightly more forced than goats.
So it's not their natural habitat.
I wouldn't have thought so. I don't
Imagine,
know enough.
imagine a goth on a goat.
In a tree or just
Yeah.
on a...
No, in a tree, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Timekeeping, Damo, come on. So we might talk about the track. We've got some bookmarks
Mm.
to do. The first one I've got is Sealand. We've done so many episodes now, I can't remember what's what, but we did mention Sealand, and we never referenced it after that. We're talking about emails and whether people,
Yeah, yeah.
we're getting emails from our listeners, and you said, I wonder if if you get emails from Sealand, assuming they didn't have emails there, and I didn't even know what Sealand was, so
Yeah.
I looked into it. As essentially, it's an oil rig,
Mm-hmm.
from what I can see.
Yeah. Well, a lump of concrete, really, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's not even...
I thought it was actually going to be a piece of land.
Yeah.
But it's
Having
not.
land in
It's
the
a little-
title.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown, I'm not going to lie, but it was quite an interesting story.
Mm. I mean, in some ways, although we referenced it, rather than go through a sort of monologue of this is what Sealand is, if people want to look it
I
up.
think that's probably I don't think I could do it.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about this was, and this will, as you said in the title about the conspiracy theories, which haven't come to light as much as I thought they
I'm
would in this
building it up.
podcast. Yeah, yeah. Because that's going to be about episode 6 to 42. I got an advert from Sealand on my Instagram.
You didn't.
Yeah. Offering me a lordship at $29.99.
I knew they had a shop
Yeah.
selling Sealand wares, but I didn't. I think you mentioned, but I didn't realise that you'd actually got it on. Okay.
So it came in as
Wow.
an advert.
There you are.
So that might be how we can monetize this, because I wouldn't mind being a lord. So maybe if we have a GoFundMe page
Right.
when our listeners get into double figures,
Which they are.
Yeah.
I mean, triple. I mean,
which could they could actually maybe make us lords if they felt.
I've
But it was
seen
interesting that the advert came in, because we haven't had a lot of references to it. But again, that will come up when we talk about the conspiracy theories and how your phone listens to you.
It's not really a conspiracy theory.
It's a fact.
Being in digital marketing.
What, you mean target
No.
advertising?
Yeah, that. But I guess, do you want to be a lord of an oil rig? I'm doing it down. It's not an oil rig. It looks like one. It's like a platform.
It's not
off the
really a
north.
lordship either, is it? It's a piece of paper like you can buy a piece
Yeah.
of the moon.
But it's one of those things where people go, oh, you've got a piece of the moon. I've heard of the moon.
Mm.
People might go, great, I've not heard of Sealand. And then you're into having to explain something that you pay 30 quid for.
Well, maybe we pay 30 quid and then episode 71 we record on Sealand,
Yeah.
just to add a bit of spice and magic to the podcast. It's just a thought.
Or we could make this room a principality. I think Danny Wallace did that, didn't he? He made his flat a principality,
Okay.
which I think you can. You can apply to make any area a principality.
Okay.
And then have royal family and your own currency.
I wouldn't
I
have a royal
really
family.
You wouldn't?
No. I'm
Sealand
Republican.
has one. Did you?
Yeah, well,
What is good on that is a little video with Ben Fogle meeting the royal family of Sealand.
okay.
That is quite sweet, actually. And him doing his usual enthusiasm
Yeah.
of everything that's going on, which I think is amazing.
But yeah, going back to I think sometimes I did another delve into podcasts, just like literally listening. And it sounded last time, and I want to apologise, it sounded last time I was like listening to them and going, they're all shit and we're brilliant. But I think the point
exactly what I took
sorry?
away from, that's exactly what I took away from it.
So I listened to another 12 that were equally shit. No, I think it was the bit around, I guess we're opinionated and we're telling people our thoughts, but I think someone reading out something that is just a number of facts without opinions sort of has a limited value when you've got the internet. Do you know what I mean? If we then had a 5-minute discussion about this is what Sealand is and this is what it does, I think people could go, if I was that bothered, I could look it up.
Yeah.
If we had a humorous,
Oh, if only.
yeah,
Just
if it had anything semblance of humorous
well, I called it an oil rig. I mean, that's kind of, flippancy isn't necessarily humour, is it? But,
no.
Hopefully, I think the hits on their website will go up at least 4 or 5. So it's all right. Everyone's got something out of it.
Yeah.
Got
Everyone's a winner.
Cheap laugh.
Yeah.
But actually, they're selling it for 500 million quid as well. I'm not sure whether you saw that.
They're selling it for
it's up for sale. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't think it's up for sale. I think it's one of those. I think people inquire about buying it and they go 500 million.
Okay.
Make it worth our while. To be honest, if someone gave me, I'm not being rude about the place. Gave me 100 quid, I'd sell it. But no, it is for sale. Did you want to do an apology? How many have you got? A few. I've got a couple. Actually, I've got. I was going to mention your masters. We talked about this week.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the "told you so" dance at all in front of you, but I think I might have been right. See, actually, I don't want an apology from you. I think we have that kind of relationship.
Let me just think.
But you look disappointed. It was a Master of Science.
I think I'm prepared to go. Yeah, you're right. I think an apology is probably. My life is a constant stream of apologies.
I don't need an apology. I just need to acknowledge
you
that
were
I'm
right. Yeah,
okay.
I acknowledge it, and I accept that you were right in this instance.
I tried to make you feel better that you were a master and I'm a bachelor. I'm not
Didn't
sure
you say
helped.
bachelor's better?
No, I didn't.
I thought you did.
Okay. That didn't work. I was trying to soften the blow of me being right.
I think one of the reasons I didn't think it was a Master of Science, because when I did it, it was called personnel management rather than human resources. And it felt...
This is getting more and more flaky every time we talk about it. You're not actually...
No, I am I'm
sure. No
I'm
idea
sure
what you got.
Looked into it. No, I'm not sure. No.
It's all those people writing in, looking for human resources candidates. I'm going to be very disappointed now. You haven't even got a master's in that.
The only reason I think I even got it, because I know my coursework was dubious, to say the least. I think the only reason I got it is I worked with... my placement was with a construction firm called Pierce's, who got their headquarters not far from here, actually.
Okay.
But I don't know if they exist anymore, but they did exist back in the day.
Okay.
Otherwise, I couldn't have had a work placement with them.
If they didn't exist?
No.
Well, you could have done. I mean, the whole thing sounds made up already. So I mean,
the rest of my life. So yeah, I had a work placement with them, and they were really struggling to find anything for me to do, to be honest. And they sent me down to a building site, and they said, just have a look at our health and safety and come back and see how we can improve it. And I went down there, and one of my many jobs is I have worked on a building site. And it was the daftest thing in the world. So when you come onto the building site, you go into the little hut to see the foreman, and you say, this is who I am, this is why I'm visiting the site. Mm-hmm. And then on the side of the hut, there's all the health and safety that says a hard hat must be worn on site and you must not go to this part. Mm-hmm. But it's on the hut, which tended to be at the far side of the...
so you've already been through.
So you walk through it. So I was thinking, well, what happened if something fell on my head beforehand? So my placement was basically going, if you moved the sign to the front, even if you didn't have a supply of hard hats, at least you would have told people that was a requirement of coming on site, rather than telling them. I mean, it's like if you went into, I don't know, a nudist colony, and the sign right at the end was no clothes allowed, and you'd gone on with clothes.
Yeah.
Then you would have made an obvious mistake. You need the signage when you enter wherever you're going to go into. So, So basically what happened was I wrote a thesis about having the sign at the front gates. And if you go onto building sites now, that has become a thing, and that was purely
down to you.
Purely me.
So you basically become a master of common sense.
Yeah. Master of signage. So yes, you were right. I probably have got a Master of Science.
Oh, well, we're going to have to dig that out, see if you've actually got anything.
You'll have to find proof of it somewhere online, I guess.
Might be.
Well, not you.
Was the internet around then? Oh, really?
No, it
I'm
wasn't.
feeling a bit feisty today, you probably noticed.
But the internet wasn't around when King Henry VIII was here, but there's references to him.
As soon as I said that, I thought, I'm in trouble now.
I love that on quizzes. There was one the other day.
You mean, hold on, someone has been bothered to go back and put your dubious certification of higher education.
There must
On the
be some.
internet.
There must be some list somewhere of people that have achieved at University of West.
I can understand
England.
the importance of our royal family going back, but retrospectively going back and putting information on the internet.
Anyway, that leads me on to Tipping Point. And I know we have some Tipping Point fans.
The book?
No, the 4:00 ITV quiz show.
Oh, go on.
Don't look like that. Don't judge.
I haven't got this. We're going off script. You know me, I'm getting a bit sweaty.
This is going really quick, and then you can
go,
get onto script. So on Tipping Point, which is hilarious, one of the questions recently was, in what decade was decimal currency introduced? And the person replied, I've got no idea. It's like before my time. And I thought, of all the answers to give, it's almost like you could not have any knowledge before the day you were born. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a daft answer, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
But it's one of those stock answers, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
We've all given that.
I didn't have any sympathy for her. I don't think that's a valid excuse. And she said the 50s.
Is that the one with Ben Shepherd?
Yeah.
Tipping Point.
Also, there's an in-joke on Twitter because Ben basically just tries to fill the whole programme with innuendos.
Does he?
Oh yeah, quite ridiculous.
It's filmed here as well, isn't it? In Bristol.
I don't know.
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Apologies.
Yeah, so sorry about my masters and not knowing what I have.
Just move on.
I think the bigger one, and shout out to Adam for bringing this to my attention. I ballsed up on how many calories you need to be in deficit to lose a pound of fat. I said 2,500, it's 3.5. Schoolboy error. Wow. So that's an apology.
It's okay. Forgiven.
I think the other thing I'm going to have to be careful is I sometimes, and this will come up in Imposter Syndrome, I think I sometimes say things with a sort of assurance that belies the facts.
That's okay.
So I think I do need to just be a little bit careful. Oh, the other thing was from a listener around warming up.
Yes.
That's not an apology, but I don't know if you want to cover it now, or is that going to be later on?
We can do that. We can tease that one.
Okay.
There we are.
We'll leave that one hanging.
That's one for your bag.
Okay.
Of bulge. I got a small one. We had some engagement on Instagram.
Okay.
And this is good because this is Kelly on Instagram. She wrote, now on episode 3, but need to have words about the repair shop.
Okay.
And then sent a picture to me of her at the set of Repair Shop, wearing a shirt with the Repair Shop on it. So big fan. I think I upset her slightly because I said I didn't like Repair Shop. Back to your point, we have opinions.
I think Kelly's right and you're wrong, but
right, I'm wrong that I don't like it.
I think you're wrong in that I'm not sure that you've given it a good enough go.
That wasn't what that opinion is based on, how long I've given something. Surely. Okay. I can't be wrong for that, can I?
I think you might have been a little bit disingenuous to dismiss it so quickly.
Maybe
that's what I'm saying.
But I did catch one this week, actually.
Okay.
And we're talking about Wabi Sabi as well, weren't we, in terms of things aging, and lots of the things in there are old and actually chipped and worn and stuff like that. I understand if it's broken.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're all very talented. I think I did mention that the first one. They're very good at what they do. It's just the pace of it for me is a little bit... It's like this podcast. Soporific. But because it's harder to watch than it is to maybe be involved in. But yeah, and also actually the thing I noticed this week was when they do the reveal, they come back in, and there's that kind of, they build it up, don't they? They kind of they kind of say this is the thing that used to be up in my childhood, and then they come in. Actually, one guy this week and had it was obviously cold outside, and he came in and had his gloves and body warmer on, and just left his gloves and body warmer on for the entire section of that, and then shook everyone's hands with his gloves on. I thought that was a bit odd. I don't know how you feel about that, but I would have taken... Is it rude to shake someone's hand with the glove on?
It's not appropriate. Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
It was just a bit...
This is pre-COVID, isn't it? He wasn't doing it for that.
I'm not... No. I don't think so.
Okay.
No idea.
So anyway, punchline was...
well, they do that thing where they there's an awkward wait where they kind of say, how do you feel? Or how do you think your dead granddad would have felt? And, and they're almost waiting for them to cry.
Yeah.
Or, or blub, or I don't know, contrived maybe.
I think I sort of need to say sorry to Kelly because,
You're
just hammering into it now. Kelly's just made a little point.
I didn't realise
she's been there. She's got the T-shirt,
she loves it,
and you're just slagging it off even more because of knitwear.
Sorry, Cal. Should I move
Do you know
on then?
Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah.
Used to be a friend of mine. Anyway,
you can repair it.
Way. Oh, this is good. I think that was it. That was it for apologies. I just wanted to. I did go back because the Kellogg story went down quite well. I got a bit of feedback from that.
Yes.
I think we've kind of said it's quite nice if there's just one thing that people take away from an hour of inane banter, and that was it. So I thought it was quite good. But I went back just to get a little bit more information on him. And the only reason I kind of wanted to bring this back in is because there's something that made me chuckle. So I just wanted to share.
Share away.
So this was just Kellogg's view, obviously, that sex with a partner was bad, but masturbation was seen as even worse. If illicit commerce of the... I think this is... this is what he wrote. If illicit commerce of the sexes, which I quite liked, commerce of the sexes... is a heinous sin, then self-pollution, which is the bit that made me chuckle, is a crime doubly abominable. I just like the self-pollution. I just wanted to bring that in.
Didn't he use some other words as well? Wasn't there like 39 words that he used or something to describe how abominable it was?
Yeah, well, in Plain Facts for Old and Young, embracing the natural history of hygiene and organic life... Well, not one for a short title, was he? Kellogg catalogued 39 different symptoms of a person plagued by masturbation, including general infirmity, defective development, mood swings, fickleness, bashfulness, boldness, bad posture, stiff joints, and a fondness for spicy foods, acne, palpitations, and epilepsy.
Okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
I'll take quite a few of those.
Should we move on very quickly?
Okay, let's go.
So that was it for apologies and bookmarks, was it?
Yeah, I think there is one or two others that might come up. I think sometimes,
it's okay. We can be wrong. We're allowed to be. That's the whole point of this.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But sometimes it's a week to week and...
Yeah. But I'm upset now that I can have an opinion that's wrong. Quite upset about that.
No, I was just picking on you to try and evoke some sort of emotion. I didn't believe it at all.
Okay. Did you get the response you were after?
Yeah, I got you riled.
I want to talk about imposter syndrome. Are you familiar?
Familiar enough to know what... God, look at us. Familiar enough. We're not 22 millennials.
We can talk about our demographic later, but I'm trying to... I'm trying to attract the younger listener.
Okay, by dropping off several letters. Yeah, I am. I think I've got a bit of a view, but I'd like to hear... Because I'm sure you're going to come up with a much...
Well... Yeah, I mean, I have a view on it, and
okay. Well, what is it then? I guess, and then we can discuss the views. If I've led you out, if you haven't got a description, there we're in trouble.
No, I have. I have. I've picked. I mean, there's obviously lots of reading about it, but I'm just kind of picking an article from Time.com, which, when you start to look at these things, is exactly the same as everybody else that's got it. So I think someone's written it first. And then, news is just regurgitated and facts are regurgitated, aren't they? So I don't even think I need to give a credit because I found literally word for word from different. So imposter syndrome is the idea that you've only succeeded due to luck and not because of your talent or qualifications. Back to qualifications again. It was first identified in 1978 by psychologists Pauline Rose Clance and Susan Imes in their paper, which was called... The Imposter Phenomenon in High Achieving Women, Dynamics and Therapeutic Intervention. They theorised that women were uniquely affected by imposter syndrome in 78. Since then, research has shown that both men and women experience imposter feelings, and Clance published a later paper acknowledging that imposter syndrome is not limited to women. She also created an imposter syndrome test, which I haven't tried yet, pretty complicated. Today, imposter syndrome can apply to anyone who isn't able to internalise their own successes. Imposter syndrome expert Valerie Young, who is the author of a book on the subject called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women, has also found patterns in people who experience imposter feelings. Now, she's kind of whittle these down to 5 different ones. So we've got perfectionists, experts, natural genius, soloists, and supermen.
Supermen-women.
There's supermen and superwomen, yeah.
Okay.
So perfectionists set extremely high expectations for themselves, and even if they meet 99% of their goals, they're going to feel like failures. Any small mistake will make them question their own competence. With experts, they feel they need to know every piece of information before the start of a project. They won't apply for a job if they don't meet all of the criteria in the posting, and they might be hesitant to ask questions in class or speak up in a meeting because they're afraid to look like an idiot. The natural genius has to struggle to work hard to accomplish something. He or she thinks this means they aren't good enough. They're used to skills coming easily, and when they have to put in effort, their brain tells them that's proof that they're an imposter.
Mm-hmm.
Soloists, they feel they have to accomplish tasks on their own, and if they need to ask for help, they think that means they're a failure or a fraud. And the supermen or superwomen push themselves to work harder than those around them to prove that they're not imposters. So they feel the need to succeed in all aspects of life, at work, as parents, as partners, and may feel stressed when they are not accomplishing something. Now, I think I suffer from imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have it all the time, but once I read those patterns, I felt I probably have a little bit of all of those things.
Okay.
So I don't know. Don't think they're saying you fit into one of those 5.
Right.
But they've just identified various different things. So I think I heard about imposter syndrome maybe about 5 years ago. So I met up with a guy who a friend and fellow agency owner,
mm-hmm.
and he works for what I would consider one of the most respected agencies in Bristol. And we were having a chat, and we got to, we've got that relationship where we can be quite honest with each other. Yeah. And he was saying, "How is it all going?" And I just said, it's good, but it's difficult, and sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing,
mm-hmm.
and I'm out of my depth, and I'm winging it, which is probably something I've always felt.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Oh, that's imposter syndrome," and I went, "Okay, that sounds pretty." Anything with syndrome in it's going to sound pretty heavy. And then he began to say how he felt the same. That one person that you held in high regard
mm-hmm.
turned around and went, "You're not alone." Really kind of, I guess it's someone who can level with you like that.
Yeah.
Just made me feel incredibly, I don't know what the word is.
Reassured, or?
Yeah. I guess it's that thing of just not being alone.
Mm.
Because I think, it's one of the, we all get in our bubbles, don't, whatever we're doing, we're in our bubbles, whether that's a home bubble or work bubble, or, and there's lots of things out there we see people doing, we hear about things, and, there's lots of things, fear of missing out, thinking people are, doing things you should be doing. So that was kind of a really interesting thing for me. And kind of since then, I've read up a lot about it. Like most things, I think you're made aware of it. It doesn't mean you can go away and fix it. Like most things to do with us as humans.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of comforting that lots of people suffer from this, and I think that for me, I have this kind of push and pull thing,
mm-hmm.
where sometimes I feel really confident about I have confidence in my own abilities, and I know what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And I know I have that perfectionist nature, and I'll come to the perfectionist bit in a minute because there's kind of 2 different ways of looking at it, but I feel I have to kind of better myself
mm-hmm.
in whatever I'm doing. So I guess there's lots of internal and external factors, and I get that kind of push and pull. So I want to better myself, but then I'll have moments where I feel I'm just, the crushing self-doubt and the what am I doing here? How did I get here? Is it all a series of, accidental, I guess mistakes and have I got here by luck rather than judgment and knowledge? Because you can't say. I guess one of the big things for me is that I've never worked in an organisation as big as my own organisation.
Right.
So at every point, it's always new. The bigger we get,
mm-hmm.
the newer it gets.
Yeah.
Because I've not done it. It's not like I've done this before. Some people haven't. They've built business. It's failed or whatever. It's gone. They've built it up again. At least they've had that experience. But I'd kind of look at that and go, well, even if they do something again, that would be for the first time. So actually, everything you do is for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of where once I started to tell myself that, actually winging it's okay. I've not done this before.
Yeah.
We're only going to do this once, whatever it is we're doing. So that's kind of helped me with that imposter bit.
You mentioned self-doubt, and I was going to say when you were going through it, in that, and this is playing devil's advocate a little bit, is that everybody's bound to have a degree of self-doubt in every element of their life. I haven't met anyone, that thinks they've got everything sussed. And on whether...
Have you not?
No. You're looking at me as if I was going to say that I had.
No, it's probably sounding more loaded than it. I'm surprised at that. Maybe it's just in the fields we've been in. You must have met someone who, I don't know.
I've met people who've been massively successful, whether it's in business or in sport, but I still think the point I was going to say about the self-doubt is I think it's more of a societal influence than perhaps it was back in the day. It's funny, for someone who spends quite a lot of time on social media, I'm always scathing of it, and I think it's that element around the way things are portrayed create self-doubt where maybe there was none before in this day and age, where back in the day you didn't have comparisons. So you went to work, you did your work, your comparison was whoever's in the office. You didn't have, there was no other medium.
Maybe the person you went down the pub with.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it.
And I think one of the things that I think is the most positive, and this is sort of on the theme, but it is slightly different, is I've seen quite a few Insta posts from women at the moment have done the same pose, but have slightly changed their body angle. And one was the post that they put up, and the other one that showed cellulite or stretch marks or fat or anything that would be seen as imperfections. And I think these are so valuable, and this is why I'm linking this to the self-doubt, is that, back in the day, things that people were aspiring to. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about who was sort of famous back in the day, and we were talking about sort of models. And back in my day, it was Sam Fox from The Sun, and it was just like she was like the epitome of or Kylie back in the day, something like that. But there was 2 or 3 people that basically dominated. If you're a 15-year-old lad with a crush, Linda Lusardi for the dads, Sam Fox and Kylie. And so the point I'm making now is that if you go on to Instagram, you'll see, instead of those 3, you'll see 3,000 women that are probably as attractive or as whatever could fulfill that role. So that's going to create self-doubt. And I think what I love at the moment, especially with women on Instagram and some of the PTs that I follow, is that they're showing the other side. They're showing that, what is displayed, that is going to create self-doubt if people are trying to get to that stage. So it isn't totally about the imposter syndrome, but it's about that bit around the pressures to be the best in everything.
I guess
now.
it's where the pressures are coming from. And it's so easy to blame everything on social, isn't it? I mean, almost everything points back to that, doesn't it? Kind of either, there was almost too much of the wrong information, or there's too much of the right information, no one knows which one to look at. And then you've got the visual nature of it, and I guess comparing, not just to one individual, like I said back in your day, but to thousands. I mean, if you flicking through Instagram and any subject, there's going to be hundreds. You could flick through it in 10 minutes. Hundreds of different. You've got, and I guess maybe we don't realise how much that is kicking in. But I guess it's stuff you read, and there's definitely you only sing when you're winning kind of part of it. Most people only put stuff on social if it's great, but they're boasting, or let's just look at me, I guess. I mean, I'm super conscious of the stuff I put up, and I think I probably overthink things, and I've certainly put stuff up and deleted more than I've probably posted, or started to put something.
You're quite often self-effacing. You did a post the other day of your bike outside a cafe, and the comment underneath it was almost trying to take away from the fact that it wasn't a perfect shot. You made some point like something wasn't in the right position. It was literally a bike outside the cafe, which I don't think...
Oh, I remember what that was.
And it was sort of, you hadn't got the...
Yeah, and this probably sounds like a really minor thing, but the point I was making, because I read something not so long back about how to take pictures of your bike. I mean, it's weird as a cyclist. We'll do it, I guess, whatever our thing is. I'm not one for selfies, but I will put my bike on there. But cyclists generally prop their bike up against something, a gate, take a picture of the landscape and have their bike in it. I do it, and my Instagram's kind of full of it. But then I read somewhere that when you do that, you have to have the chain on the big ring at the front, and you have to have your pedals at 3 and 9 o'clock, or you might as well not bother. Yeah. So that's what I was making that point. I was like, it might sound like a minor point, but that's actually kind of the point we're probably making here. All those little details stick, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
The way someone poses, or the way someone looks, the way someone should be behaving. Then you get into leadership and how you should be running your business, and how you should be talking to your staff, and how you should be, how you should. And maybe that's one for another time, is the word should. Yeah. Because it's hideous, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is hideous. I'm using the word should, and I'm trying not to. It's actually it's really difficult to take words out of your vocab.
We have had this discussion, haven't we?
I think we have, not on here, but
no,
it's something I haven't really looked into.
I'd like to. We could have a should special.
We should.
We should.
We should. It kind of reminds me very quickly of Jason Fried, who runs a software business in America, and he wrote, I hope I'm going to get this right, a book called Rework, which is really good. I do recommend it. Again, I'll put a link up to it. One of his things was he's banned ASAP from his business. Which I thought was quite interesting, because actually things like that are nonsense, aren't they?
Yeah, it's like any other business. Going back in the 80s, I used to have a boss who refused to have any other business on an agenda. And his view was, if you're going to say something, then tell me what it's going to be and I'll put a number next to it. It's like this sort of lucky bag at the end, you know. It's like you open it and you get...
It's like our mailbag.
Yeah.
There might be nothing in it, or one thing. But yeah, but they... yeah, so what were we talking about? Imposter syndrome, weren't we?
We were talking about the self-doubt, and I think one of the things I was thinking about when we thought about setting this up, and the thing that you say at the beginning about helping one person, although we've had a lot of positivity about these podcasts, which I'm feel really humbled by, a little bit of me is thinking, especially around the mental health, that I think that's a key bit that we just keep alluding to. And I think I was saying to you the other day, I'm finding at the moment with clients and with friends, there is such a sense of unease at the moment, just because of everything that's happening. And everyone's always going to say, oh, life's always more hectic than it was back in the day. But I think that general bit of people not even knowing, you know, we've had a thing today about going to the pub tonight, and it's like, shall I book a table? How many people? Do you know what I mean?
It's got very complicated very quickly.
Oh, has it?
But it's sort of, anyone fancy a beer tonight? We're like, yeah. And then we've, you know, the admin kicks in, doesn't it?
So I think it's that element of, for me, that there is a lot of uncertainty, there is a lot of self-doubt, and I think what I think I'd like to be able to do through this podcast, and whether we're talking about something about imposter, is exactly the bit you said at the beginning, that people aren't alone. And I still think there is that feeling that, you know, that when you experience something, you're the only person experiencing. And I think it's nice to know other people. I shared this with a PT the other day. When you lose a client as a PT, it's like, that's it, that's the end. You know, they've left. The reality is that clients with a PT should be temporary. You only go to a driving instructor to learn how to drive. When you've learned, you move on.
Interesting, yeah.
A PT should enable you to be able to move on. You might be there in terms of having some, you know, some input along the way and some motivation and coming back to someone and being shown new things. But the reality is you shouldn't be with a PT forever. Obviously, you will stay with me forever.
Yeah, it's not even entered my head.
I'm the whole of your support structure. But... yeah, so I think that there is that element of, I think it's good to actually share the fact that, and it's the bit you said at the beginning, the bit you stuttered over every week about our imperfections. I think it is true. People need to hear it, though. They need to hear that other people are struggling.
So the opposite of imposter syndrome is something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which sounds cooler than imposter syndrome.
I'm signing up to that one.
It is the following. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is a type of cognitive bias in which people believe that they are smarter and more capable than they really are. Now, I would put a lot of money on you have met someone like this. Do you know what I mean? Essentially, low ability...
You mean me, don't you?
Essentially, low ability people do not possess the skills needed to recognise their own incompetence.
Okay, yeah.
The combination of poor self-awareness and low cognitive ability leads them to overestimate their own capabilities. The term lends a scientific name and explanation to a problem that many people immediately recognise, that fools are blind to their own foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
As Charles Darwin wrote in his book, The Descent of Man, ignorance more frequently begets confidence that does knowledge.
Saw that on Twitter a couple of days ago.
Did you?
Yeah. That phrase.
Right.
Yeah. And it was someone saying basically that a lot of people on Twitter will say something with such a confidence that you believe it, and then you look into it and you go, that could not possibly be true. But the way it's sold and the confidence behind it draws you in, really.
Doing this podcast kind of goes again, we kind of covered it the week, but it goes against what I'm used to. And I guess if you have an element of imposter syndrome, you go, what authority do I have to sit here and speak into this microphone? And have the kind of almost the audacity to think that someone's going to listen to this and take anything away.
No, I get that. No, I get that. Yeah.
I guess as a creative, I feel I have to. There's no point just sitting and creating things and not sharing them. It feels like that's kind of such an important part of completing the creative process. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get
rather than
that.
just being a prolific artist and no one ever sees your work. So there's an element of, we talked about putting this stuff out.
But this podcast isn't done with an arrogance that
no,
people are queuing up to listen to us or will agree with us or that it will be wholly successful. I think it's, for me, certainly bits of it, and this is why I was referring again to the mental health. I've had a very interesting, not interesting week. Interesting is the wrong word. I've had a very varied week with like a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But one of the ups has been a couple of bits of feedback where people have gone, "What you've said, I valued." It wasn't a big thing. It was just and probably 9 times out of 10, you've just done it because you've just happened to say words that have resonated with somebody.
Yeah.
They haven't been particularly clever, insightful. But at that time, for that person, they were enough to...
Yeah.
And they're often things that I don't listen to myself. I'm very good at giving advice and not taking it on myself. So I think going back to the podcast, I think if there's a couple of nuggets that we give and people go away and they've spent 35 minutes listening to us, but something has helped them, then I don't think that's an arrogance. I think that's, in some ways, it's altruism, isn't it?
But I think I'm also, and this is where I probably sound like a huge contradiction, in that there's people out there who I know, and I like Facebook, I give LinkedIn a bit of a bashing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I don't think it reflects how we do business, certainly how I want to do business or be in the business world. And there's plenty of people who I've just, I've talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect and described a lot of people that I see all over the channels. And like we covered a minute ago, I think it's, like I said, it wasn't back in the day, you didn't have all these channels. There's a lot more channels these days. I would argue it's still the same. People still built the same broadly, but you're just bombarded from every angle with either their bullshit or their wisdom.
Yeah.
Or, their humility or their arrogance, and every shade thereof. For me, I want to do this because it's kind of, I guess, the antithesis of some of the characters on LinkedIn who will proclaim that they know everything. And I think the thing I struggle with is I know for a fact that none of those have done any of the things for any amount of time or with any, actually probably just never done any of the things they're talking about. I know they're bullshitters. Yeah. I absolutely know they are. So I'm sitting there going, I know that I've been there and done that. I struggle that I don't have the ability to go out and impart my thoughts because I don't want to look like you. So that is a massive contradiction in a sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't want to be like the people I'm not. Because this is a difficult one, because it's something I've been really want to talk about. Yeah. But I've never talked about it out loud.
No.
I can sit in my car and go, oh yeah, think that, and then you come to do it and like, actually it's not coming out half as eloquently as I want it to. I think maybe it's that humility bit for me. Maybe because I've met some of these people who I think are charlatans, for want of a better word, but they're all over. I shouldn't get wound up that they're all over LinkedIn and all over social saying this stuff. But I also see that people are believing it. Yeah. And people I know and respect kind of finding, oh, that's really good. It's like,
It goes back to our skinny coffee of last week. There are people in the industry who are saying, take this. And there's more and more people saying to them, shut the fuck up sort of thing. But there is that element of what you've just described, is that, so although I feel very strongly that that is wrong and affects people's health, maybe the fact that I've remained silent is I'm letting people down. I should be a little bit more vocal rather than having that information and just holding it to myself. It was an Insta story. This is just slight deviation, but only very slight. I was going to put up an Insta story yesterday, which was going to be hashtag cancel Netflix.
Oh, I saw that.
And then underneath I was going to put, if you don't know I've put this hashtag up, learn.
Is that about cuties?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to put that up. And I don't know why I didn't, to be honest. I think I will do it after this. The point I was trying to make was that it's no good for me sitting and saying this is abhorrent and wrong, and then not doing something about it in no matter how small a way that might be.
Sure.
And it is abhorrent and wrong, and therefore I think you have a duty, especially if I come from a position of some knowledge. I've worked with monstrous people in prisons, the worst ever offenders, and if I just see something that Netflix are putting out and go, that's the sort of stuff that I've, worked with people that have thrived on that, but I'll keep quiet because I don't want anyone to be upset by me bringing in child pornography into my Insta story. But I'm thinking now as I'm vocalising it, that's around the bit, going back to what you're saying. If we have the knowledge and we're confident that's right, don't let the charlatans go out. And somebody, I saw someone, and this to me comes under the charlatan, someone said about cuties, basically supporting it, was saying you could see a film of the Holocaust, but that isn't saying that mass genocide is a good idea. Therefore, you're seeing a film about child pornography. In essence, that's what this element of the film is, but it doesn't say it's a good thing. So it's like, because it's not a real thing, you can't have it isn't like a documentary where you could see these people are doing X, Y, and Z, so that is wrong. The point was with these 11-year-old girls that were dancing in a sexualised way, highly sexualised, that is wrong. Although they were acting, they were still doing the action.
Yeah.
The people who were doing the Holocaust weren't being killed. They weren't in concentration camps. They were actors. So although these girls were actors, they were doing the sexualised behaviour. Yeah, and I think that's the charlatan. Someone there's going, well, it isn't that bad. Yeah. Anyway, that escalated quickly, didn't it?
It did. Okay, should we kick it on? Numbers.
Yeah. Are we recording now?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Or the honesty. Painfully honest. Your association with numbers. We've touched on this, haven't we? I've called you a serial ranker, which was pretty strong. You might have to back that up. And you've talked briefly to me about your association with numbers, which I find interesting.
My association with numbers is I think it's bizarre. I think it's a little bit too much in some ways, because...
To who? You or anybody else?
Someone once said to me, when I was discussing something about the numbers, they said, would the world collapse if you didn't do X, Y, and Z? And I said, I'm not going to take that risk. And so I'm sticking by the fact that if I stick to my strange relationship with numbers and ranking...
So as an example, I think the one that sticks in my mind, but I don't think you fully explained it, was number plates. Mm-hmm. Isn't there a thing with that for you?
Well, there is, but there is for absolutely everything.
Oh, just wherever you see numbers.
Yeah. I can remember being with my dad about a year ago. I was driving him somewhere, and he was just saying random phrases in the passenger seat of the car, and I suddenly realised he was looking at the number plates in front and making up random sentences with the 3 letters on every car we saw. And I realised we used to do that as a child. But I realised the thing with the numbers comes from probably my dysfunctional childhood, in terms of, I found a book the other day that started with the number 1 and then doubled
What do you mean the book started with a number?
No, I'd written down the number 1, and then I'd written 2, 4, 8, 16, 32.
Right.
And pages and pages and pages of this book.
What, a number on each page?
Just double. No, each line of the book, I would double the number.
Whoa.
Until I was up into billions. And this was the day before calculators. This is probably 1970.
You could do that just out of your...
Yeah.
Just off your head.
I'll have a go now. So it'd be 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 30. This is great radio. 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096. Yeah, so it's all still there.
Crikey.
So constantly, I think, I will either look for numbers and try and find associations, or numbers will have. So I was a bookie. I've been a bookie for several different bookmakers. And again, this was pre-calculators, so everything had to be worked out in your head.
Yeah.
So I can work out. So you convert the odds into, you convert a fraction, so 2 to 1. You convert it into a decimal, and then you work out, so 2 to 1 would be, you convert that into a decimal and then times that by the stake to work out how much someone's won. But you would do every single race in your head. Wow. So you convert a fraction to a decimal, then change it, multiply it by the stake. And as I said, we had no calculators. And so I guess that's probably why I got into that profession, amongst other reasons. And but yeah, so numbers we were discussing. I had an Insta story from a friend that lives in Bahrain, and she had put a photograph of her alarms for the morning, and it was 3:11, 4:27, 5:13,
right,
7:09. And said, can anybody else relate? Interesting, my middle daughter does exactly the same. When we talked about it at home, she
the same types of numbers, or just
would not have a 0 or a 5, but she would pick the numbers specifically. So so where this gets ridiculous is that because numbers in a certain formation I would not use as an alarm, I may struggle to set the alarm for the time that I actually want to get up.
Right.
Because a number of numbers would be precluded. So if I wanted to get up, say, at 7:15, I wouldn't set the alarm at 7:15 because I would never do it ending in a 5 and a 0.
Right.
I wouldn't do it at 7:16 because 7 minus 1 is 6, so it has a formation. Right. 717, obviously, wouldn't have that. 718 is 7 plus 1 is 8. So the first time I could set it would be 719.
Right.
I couldn't set it at 720. 721, 3 7s are 21, so I couldn't do that. 722, I wouldn't have two numbers together. So 723 would be the next time. So I'm limited in terms of how many numbers I can use, but I do tend to set my alarm about 5 to 7 alarms every morning.
Depending on when you need to be anywhere.
So I'll have random times, so my alarm will constantly go off. So that isn't any more complex. Once you've done them, that's no more complex than going to 7:15 or 7:30.
When you're used to it.
When you're used to it.
I'm sitting here, just my brain's just melted listening to that.
And probably it's overcomplicated, and probably it doesn't need to.
It's not for you.
No, and I feel.
So it's I guess it's a reflex, or it's
and it's easy for someone to go, stop being a prick. Do you know what I mean? Like if you want to get up at 7:15, that's when you set your alarm for. And it isn't any. I'm not coming here with I have massive anxieties about numbers. It's just
but you would if you didn't do that, you'd have massive anxiety.
I'm not even sure that it would be massive anxiety because I did do a 7:20. What did I do? A 5:20 the other day and surprised myself, but it just felt right. I guess I probably invoke feelings and emotions into inanimate things. So numbers to me.
Is this a control thing? Is it because you can set that number? So if someone came to you and said, "I want you to be here at this time and that time,"
no, I don't think it's a control thing. I think it's around. I think it's around overthinking. So what I do is, and we've talked about this, talked about rankings, is that I will rank pretty much anything. So if I'm in a certain situation, so if I'm standing in the shower, I will rank the shampoo bottles based on their font, their colour,
Right.
their marketing, their shape.
Uh-huh.
And actively in my mind, I will rank them.
Maybe you're saying to me you were ranking phone companies, mobile phone companies.
Yeah.
I think that one was as well, wasn't it?
But also,
for different reasons.
I now link mobile phone companies. I would link it with other rankings. So I would have an association with either the logo, the colour, what I felt that. So Vodafone to me is fairly sort of, I don't know. Vodafone is Broadmead. Okay, I wouldn't feel
a Bristol reference.
It's just a Bristol reference, yeah. For those of you in Texas, in terms that it's not shiny, it's just workmanlike.
Yeah.
3 is more shiny than Vodafone, and so I would have rankings. I rank mugs, for example. If I'm looking in a cupboard, I will rank which mug I'm going to use, and that's simple because everyone has their favourite mug. But if the favourite mug isn't...
ranks them, though.
Not everyone ranks maybe the next 3.
I don't think I have a second or a third favourite.
No.
You probably do.
Yes. I do with
So
carrier
are they in the
bags.
cupboard with your favourite at the front? Or would you like going through your least favourites before you get to that one?
Because I already know the ranking, it doesn't matter.
Oh, just pick one.
So I know what...
Will you pick
my
them
first...
based on anything else other than just which one's at the front?
I'll find the mug I want. If it's a cupboard full of 20 mugs and ranking 1, 2, 3 have gone, I will look for 4.
Right.
Or wash it up. But there might be another 16 mugs there that I would choose not to have.
I think you need to get rid of some mugs. Just, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
20.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, mind you, I've probably got a lot. I think everyone's got a case of too many
They
mugs.
have,
in the
and
cupboard,
I think, to be honest, if you're ranked less than 15 in the mug world, you need to go in the bin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, so yeah, and I think I don't see this, I'm not describing this as a problem, but I'm just describing, I guess, as...
Yeah, I think...
I don't know, a fascination with figures. I mean, so for example, last example, I just said about my dysfunctional childhood. I used to play, I'm not going to go into all of this, but I used to play Monopoly by myself with 5 imaginary friends. This is like therapy.
It's all coming out now.
Yeah, a lot of kids did. A lot of kids played at home with certain things. But one of the things, for example, that has come from that, it doesn't matter that I was playing with my imaginary friends, although 2 of them I'm not in contact with anymore. But
well, we're in 3 of them you are.
yeah, they're here.
What are you
What you
looking
mean
at?
you can't see them? But so just in terms of numbers now, I would be pretty confident that I could go round the Monopoly board in order, mention every property, the cost of every property, and probably the cost of, not all, but of buying a house and the rent you would get back on that property.
Okay.
Now, why have I kept that information? It isn't...
Useful?
No, it isn't useful. But to know every single one in order is obviously, I guess, something about my brain just takes that in. And so like today when I've been running, the timing has massive impact for me. And my training partner said to me today when I got my number for the race, she goes, "Are you all right with 12?" It's like, I'll manage.
Just don't look at it.
Yeah.
Good job it's on your chest.
Why have you mentioned it? But so yeah, I think it's just, and be interesting.
Has that kind of led you to do what you've ever done in terms of, I guess, work and things you've enjoyed? Being a PT now, we're always talking about numbers, reps, combinations thereof. I think you certainly on Thursday, I think you added up how many reps I'd done for the whole session.
Yeah, and I sometimes
I didn't need it, but it was interesting once you'd given it me.
Yeah.
But I think you
I was consciously doing that.
Going.
Yeah, I was adding up as we went along, and sometimes looking at, I don't tell you this, but I sometimes look at total weight lifted to see if that was as much as I'd want for that session. And
okay.
So yeah, numbers. Yeah, I think numbers are just really, really important to me, and I think
Do you find a comfort in it?
Yeah.
As much as a discomfort sometimes, depending on, can it be too busy in your brain? Can you?
I think my brain's too busy, full stop. I think the numbers are just
Part of it.
Yeah.
I think everyone's got some number thing, haven't they?
Yeah.
Whether it's got a lucky number or, numbers they read wrong, whether it's being number dyslexic or whatever. There's some sort of associations or
Yeah.
someone's had a bad experience with a number.
And this is
I've always tried to avoid numbers I guess that's one of the reasons I do what I do. Is, well, the irony now is that all I do is look at numbers. But the reason I got into design is because I struggle with numbers. And you're talking about I struggle with multiplications, with fractions and mental arithmetic was just hell for me. So I always did things that didn't involve maths.
Yeah.
And then to be involved in things that just involve maths now, pretty much.
Yeah.
But some people I'm quite jealous that you're so comfortable with them. So I'd like to be more comfortable with numbers.
I guess I have an element of control of them, I guess. So it's like quite interesting. Yeah, when as a PT, you'll sort of be putting the weights up, and you as a client will go, "How much is that?" And I'll look at the colours and go, "Yeah, that's 65 kilos." So yeah, I think you're right. I think maybe I've been attracted to just the way numbers work. I just find it, and I think the interesting thing is that presenting at this sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek about, oh, how wacky you are, like setting your clock for, I was going to say 7:08, obviously I wouldn't, for 7:09, and but it isn't really wacky. It's just a number.
It's just a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and most of time is a man-made constraint anyway, isn't it?
True. Yeah.
That's the one thing that I find very hard. You ask anybody, any child, how many weeks there are in a year, and they'll say 52, and there aren't. There's more than 52. Why do we teach our kids there's 52 weeks in the year?
Huh? Are there not?
Do the math.
I can't. Just explain that. I can't do maths.
You're not going to get on countdown, is it?
No.
So 52 times 7, 364. There's never 364 days in the year. There's either 365 or 366.
Okay.
So there's more than 52 weeks in a year.
Do you have a conspiracy theory about this?
No, but it's just a lie. Why do a kid goes to school, how many weeks in a year? 52. It isn't true. You could go, well, almost 52. We don't teach them almost 52.
Oh, you mean it's not quite? It's close.
It's just over.
Oh.
But since when has time become sort of a guesstimate? We're going to teach you.
Well, for something that's so accurate, why be so inaccurate?
Yeah, it's time. We're measuring our lives, and kids are brought up to...
Does anyone trip over that at the end? I don't think has anyone fallen foul of it being slightly longer, right?
But that doesn't matter. That's like saying...
But is it important, I guess?
Do this sum. Well, that's close enough. If we're saying...
It depends what you're doing. If you're, designing precision egg.
Yeah. No, but you get the points I'm making. There's 52 point whatever weeks in the year. There isn't 52. Okay. How much more difficult would it be to say there's 52.3 weeks in the year? Because that's the truth.
Maybe no one's getting to explaining it, but maybe actually it's quite simple when you've just done the maths.
I just think why,
I haven't actually. What I was going to do with this world in numbers was work out how many people have died during this podcast.
Okay.
Not from listening to it, just from the time. But deaths today says 111,294, 296, 297, 300.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting website, which we have the link to in the show notes.
Yeah.
It's quite good. And
so what's the births compared with the deaths?
So
this is world
today.
Figures. Yeah.
Births today is 265,000 against 111,000 deaths. So yeah,
makes you think
people.
that 265,000 people have been born today.
Yeah,
it's mad, isn't it?
It is. A lot of babies, isn't it?
Well, they're all babies.
Yeah. But this one we kind of touched on the other week, wasn't it, in terms of the amount of people that are overweight. So overweight people in the world is, does it say 1 point? I mean, you're better at 1 point. There's lots of commas. 1.6 billion.
Right. And undernourished?
Oh, undernourished is 845 million.
Okay, so half.
Yeah, the amount of obese is 765.
That's what
million.
I was looking at when I looked at this. The obese is going up faster than the undernourished, which in one respect could be seen as a positive.
I get really kind of cynical about this web. These are, I guess they are taking an average over a period of time. And
there isn't someone recording it. No.
Knowing a little bit about websites, where they're getting their data from. But of course, I guess it's taken I don't know how it's calculating every day or a week and then working it out. But it's got to be there or thereabouts, doesn't it? Which is It's quite.
It's about as exact science as weeks in a year. You looked at me when I'm saying that as if like, why the fuck does that matter anyway?
Yeah,
I think it does matter.
Not to me. I don't think I'm going to worry about that. I was worried if there was a day less or something. I'd be like, okay, what's happened to that? I'd be worried, but
the bit I met, and I don't know what the percentage is. I'll work it out in a minute. But say it is 0.3. If you're a teacher in school and they go, right, children, it's 24 hours in a day and 60 minutes in an hour, and there's 52 weeks in a year, lie. But all they'd have to say is 0.3. So if they said 52.3 weeks in the year, all they're saying is 0.3, and then they're accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not.
So I don't know. I just don't get why.
I don't know. Does someone go, why 0.3? Like you with a 47.2, you ask whether there's a decimal.
Well, no, because it would be an actual thing, wouldn't it? Because 52 weeks is 364 days. So it's 1/364th is the decimal fraction, so it isn't 0.3, so it's going to be 0.3. I was wrong.
Okay.
So it's 52.03 weeks. This is probably going to be apologies for next year. Okay, this is going on too long.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You might have to put your headphones on for this.
Okay.
We had some feedback about music, and seeing as the drop and give me 20 is your section, I thought I'd introduce it like this.
Okay.
What do you think?
Is that ragtime?
It's called Heist. Would you like to hear it again or not? Or is that enough?
No, I can remember it.
Okay.
I just like the fact you've done it.
So we're going to talk about, have you got your top 5 workouts to hand?
Yeah.
Is it in your head?
Yeah.
Because you can retain things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do yours?
Okay.
Do you want to do 5 coming down to 1, as in your... Have you ranked? Of course you've ranked them.
I've ranked them, but I want to start on 1.
Okay. Is that your favourite?
My number?
Is 1 your favourite?
Yes, one being top.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not being typical Sunday afternoon chart countdown. And I've done, if you like, a little bit wider than a workout because I just didn't want it being weights based, if that's okay. So bearing in mind, because it's my passion, sprints is my number 1, running fast. People don't run fast. Children run fast. If you go to the beach, children run as fast as they can in the sand.
Yeah.
And if they're playing with a toy, children squat as deep as they can. And those two things as adults, we lose.
I mean, running, even walking on the sand is difficult.
Yeah.
But then running doesn't look cool.
No.
As a kid, you don't really mind.
But children would do that anyway. If you set children, like if you go into a zoo, they all run to get to the first thing, and we don't. So the reason I was really, really keen on sprinting, firstly because I love it, like with a passion. But the difference between sprinting and running for me is that I'm training runners. I've got runners, and I would say the vast majority have constant niggles, constant injuries. And I think you get to a point in your life where your joints are going to struggle. Mm-hmm. I don't think we were built to run marathons, for example. I think it takes a toll on your body. Mm-hmm. And the older people get, the more of a toll it takes. But when I do my sprint training, so if I go down to the track on a Tuesday night, I will be there, say I'm there for an hour, I won't run any more than 3 minutes in that hour. So the rest of the time is stretching. Quite a lot's posing in the summer, obviously. No, it's stretching, it's joint mobility, it's just different movements and patterns of movement. And the sprinting itself is an explosion of action and then a long rest and recovery. But I think in terms of just sheer energy and just sheer excitement, when I look at the distance runners going around the track, pounding and trouble with their knees, trouble with their joints, trouble with their ankles, sprinting to me just feels a bit more pure and simple. Mm-hmm. But I'm really, really surprised, I guess, that I think everything is pushed towards being a distance runner. So a lot of the people I train will go, I've done 5 kilometres, now I'm going to step up to 10 and then half marathon, as in it being the further you run, the better it is. And I would say, be fast at 5 kilometres. Mm-hmm. you're just covering a distance per se.
Yeah. I guess there's a cardio benefit there, isn't there? Is there kind of in terms of heart health and lung health potentially? Or is that? That's what I'd think.
I'm only humming because as a PT, I'm not going to say no, don't run because it isn't good for you.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it is cardio. The point I'm making is that if you're running at a certain pace, the cardio element could maybe be overestimated. Mm-hmm. So if you were doing, for example, if you were doing running or jogging or whatever for weight loss, I would say it's way secondary to diet. Yeah. You'll make weight loss by diet, not by running around a park. But if you just wanted to spend an hour, if you did something high energy like boxing or rowing, you would burn more calories. So it's this bit about, are you doing the activity because you like the activity, in which case 100% do it, 100%.
Keep going, keep running, Forest.
If you're doing it because I'm running to lose weight, it isn't necessarily the best thing to do, and you're unlikely to get injured rowing on a rowing machine. You are likely to get injured running in a park in February.
So back to the, obviously what your goals are, but also it's interesting. You said, I think we touched on it the other day, about as you get older, there's an expectation of things you should and shouldn't be doing, isn't there? You said we don't run. You're right. We stopped running. Yeah. I think I started running again, playing football when I was 35 or something, or whatever it was. You think, I haven't run around. There's no reason to run unless you're getting chased by somebody who's there.
Unless there's a bear.
Why shouldn't you? And I guess is there the speed thing, the fast twitching muscle bit, is that beneficial to? It's
beneficial in that
everyday functional.
Yeah, I think it's that bit around. If you haven't tried it, you don't know what it's like, and people aren't encouraged to go down to a track and sprint. They're encouraged to do park run or couch to 5K, and it's great. And I think there's a big social aspect to these. Sprinting is quite an insular individual sport, which is probably partly why I do it. But I think there's that element of someone the other day said to me, "It's just so nice running really fast," and it is. We don't run really fast. You and I know at football, people don't run really fast. And that isn't because they can't. It's just you don't. No one sprints balls out. No. But it's almost like, why not? We are built to run fast. We are built to run away from bears and to hunt. And, So sprinting is top for me because I think it has. And I also saw on Instagram, the day before yesterday, a 103-year-old woman just set a new world record for the 100 metres. And you think, and she was, and I think it was interesting. I mean, I could have beaten her easily. The time wasn't that good. But it was interesting to think, have a word with some other people and say, right, try 100 metres and see how long it takes, and then see how this 103-year-old woman did it. Yeah. So
number 2, that was a long one, but as your top one.
Yeah, so. I'm only going to spend a long. Number 2 is yoga.
Okay.
Mind blown, obviously, because I'm a PT going for yoga. It's
you've got into that a lot.
I got into it a lot. We'll do the link. It's a link that millions of people use. You've used as well, haven't you?
Adrian.
Yoga with Adrian.
Yeah.
She comes across really well. It's a good level. Yeah, yoga has changed so much about my mobility. It's changed more than any of the training I have done in the past.
Yeah.
So yoga is second. Mm-hmm. The reason I put weight training for third and not first is that I think it's almost too easy as a PT to go.
Pretty broad, but I guess any weight-based.
Yeah, training. But it's basically...
So weight rather than any kind of resistance training?
Well, resistance training is weight training.
Okay, even if it's your own weight potentially or...
To a degree, yeah. So, there is a fine line. So the main element, and I am going to speak more because I think we've had 1 or 2 people talking about the muscle mass thing.
And because they started running. So they're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I think we maybe need to do a deeper dive on that just to explain the science behind it because it is really important. I think resistance training is the only training that, number 1, can increase your bone density. Swimming or cycling or stuff is obviously good for you, but you have to have the resistance of a weight to build your bone density. And when you look at the number of people as you get into your 50s and 60s who have problems from breaks and other things, it seems daft that if you've got that facility, you don't take it. So yeah, weight training would be 3 for me. And I was thinking, I don't actually think I'm in a position to give a 4 or 5.
What? Why?
Well, because I want to hear a bit of yours first.
Oh, got you teasing 4 and 5. I was very specific.
Yeah.
About mine.
Press ups, 1. Star jumps.
I don't think I've ever done a star jump.
Egg and spoon race.
I do love that.
Go on then, give your top 3.
I'm going 5 to 1.
Okay.
So my least... These were my... I like them all, but these are my out of the 5, the least favourite. Seated leg curls.
Okay.
I put that in as I like because I can sit there and look out of your garage and look at the trees and have a chat. We can have a chat while I'm doing that, so I kind of like that one.
Okay.
And my legs are just doing their thing.
So least like isn't really true, is it? It's like...
Well, out of that 5,
yeah, but
it's 5 because I like it least out of that 5.
Yeah.
That make,
Yeah,
right?
got you.
And I like them.
Yeah.
So, seated bicep curls. We haven't done those for a while, but I like those.
Okay.
You're going to spot a theme in a minute.
Yeah.
The ones I like
Curls
where I'm sat down. Yeah. I like those. Australian pull-ups.
Mm-hmm.
I like those, which is basically upside down. Well, kind of. I'm forgetting that I'm saying this as if everybody knows what
standing. Very few people know these.
Yeah. So it's basically hanging off a bar.
Well, your feet are in front of you.
Yeah.
You're at an angle, and you're pulling yourself up to the bar.
Up to the bar. Yeah. Dead bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Love those because
I
like the name.
Just a shout out to one of my other clients who calls them dying flies.
I like it because it's a stretch and it feels really good.
Okay.
And deadlifts I put as my favourite thing.
God bless everybody now.
Is that
in the PT world will be?
Is that kind of?
Oh no! Deadlifts are the thing.
They are,
because the other things you've mentioned have been isolation, and that's a compound.
Because when we first started doing them, I just thought, this is doing absolutely nothing. And then when you realise you can't sit on the toilet 2 days later, you go, oh no, that is doing something to parts. I didn't know I had parts.
Yeah.
Which has been really good. And just back to the functional stuff in terms of living, having a sedentary job like I do. And you were very keen on doing things that helped me in that. Things that pulled my shoulders back, things that were good for my back and posture. And I've noticed how good that has been for...
Yeah. Yeah, deadlifts
just sitting for long periods of time or being on the bike.
Yeah.
Not feeling that my back so much on the bike. And like I said, I remember I said on the podcast, not but reaching for socks. Just those little things. I don't make noises doing that. So
when you sit in a seat doing that, that old man.
That's a difference. That's
okay,
just satisfaction rather than a pain.
Rather than effort.
So your 4 was what?
Yeah, the reason I didn't do 4 and 5 is
you didn't do your homework?
No, I did do them. What I'm saying, the reason I didn't say them was that I think in some ways they're too much of a personal... I know this is about what I rate, but I'm sort of thinking in my job, they wouldn't necessarily be seen as the best thing. So basically, part of and I'm training someone at the moment, he knows who he is. I'm not going to mention him. And he came last week, you know him. We're seeing him for a drink later. And he said, which I thought was great because it was me all over, he said, I'll do a bit of legs, Mark, and maybe like a squat, but I just want to be like you and do vanity muscles. And I thought... in a way, that was quite refreshing. It was there is part of weight training is to look good as well as being strong and being healthy. Bit of it is making changes to your body that you feel comfortable with. And so 4 and 5 for me are those elements of me trying to shape my body in the way I want it to look. So my triceps, I do a lot of work on my triceps.
They're spectacular.
Thank you. And so
whenever... Did you notice you were tensing your triceps as you were saying that? Or was it like, oh, sorry, I didn't notice.
They're permanently tensed. But so no, what the point I was going to make is that you saying something like the deadlift, if you like, is the right answer.
Thank you.
That's a brilliant
answer.
Get? But
deadlifts
on Tuesday. But yeah, I'm thinking that I do love the idea that you can physically change aspects of your body and how you look and sort of mold your body. And I think people underestimate that potential. It's like I'm going to the gym, I'm going to chuck some weights around, I might lose a bit of weight. And my daughter's a PT and seen some of the transformation pictures of her and her clients. It's just awe-inspiring, and the confidence that comes from that. Yeah. So triceps for me is just one individual muscle that I just really enjoy working. And the ironic thing was that I can't do them at the moment because of I'm waiting for an operation on something, so I can't do deadlifts. I'm not good at deadlifts, but the value of deadlifts is definitely got to be there. Like you said, the functional aspect, it's really just something being strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great, And some personal trainers won't do it because they don't teach it properly, and so people's back hurts. But I would say every single one of my clients does deadlifts.
On the subject of training, kind of reminding me, I was just thinking about deadlifts and being strong and kind of avoiding injury. I've never, lifted some okay weights, but I've never been injured.
No.
I guess, which is good. Thank you. You've always been very careful of that, but it kind of brings me on to the mailbag. Hold on, do I need to play out the music? I think I'll do that. So that was kind of the end
this
of your...
This is heist again.
Yeah. We might have to work on it. What do you think? It's okay.
I love
something.
it. I love, keep it.
Okay. So this is from Gareth. He says... Mark suggested your warm-up should be your first set. I think we were kind of joking that with the irony of warm-up and stretch and the fact that you don't do warm-ups.
Stretches,
don't do warm-ups for me. He says, this goes against everything my PT says, and we always warm up and stretch for about 10 minutes before a gym sesh.
Okay.
Curious to know why Mark suggests this. I guess you didn't, but it prompted me to go, actually, why don't...
I think it's a great question because... Number one, I'm never going to criticise another PT. There's a reason why your PT is telling you or asking you to warm up and stretch, totally. But this is my understanding. So when you told me about that, I made a phone call and spoke to 5 PTs and said, if you're doing a weight session, so this is a weight session, what do you do? And all 5 went, I get them to swing their arms around a bit and then I get bored. Another said 10 squats, and I went, what if they're doing arms? They said, well, just 10 squats.
Yeah.
So the general consensus was, when you're on the course and you're taught that warming up is important to raise the body temperature, to prepare the muscles for the exercise you're about to do, that is correct. So when I'm sprinting, I will warm up. Yeah. I think I mentioned to you the other day, when I do an indoors 60 metres, I recorded my warm-up was 5 kilometres. Of warm-ups, of stretches, of little sprints. So I did a 5K run before doing a run that lasted 8 seconds. So, and if I hadn't done that over 60 metres, I would have pulled my hamstrings, I would have stretched my quads, my glutes, would have whatever. So it's horses for courses. So if you are doing an explosive, energetic thing like a 60-metre sprint, everything in your body not only has to be warm, but has to be strengthened and going through the actions they're about to go through. So one of the things I will never do is I won't jog around. When I go to the track, some of the sprinters jog around the track. Right. No point. I only want to do those actions I'm going to do. So going back to Gareth's point, when you train with me and we're doing bench press, your first one will be 30k. Yeah. You're replicating the exercise you're about to do. There isn't a great need for me to...
I mean, how do you warm up for that?
Yeah.
Throw my arms up and down without any weight on it?
Yeah, I could have you running on the spot to get your body temperature up a bit or to get you more supple, but the muscle that's being worked is your chest. So the best way to replicate it is doing a light weight, higher reps. Yeah. It'll then be warmed up. And as you say, the interesting thing, you've never had I don't think, touch wood, I don't think anyone has had an injury with me. No. From not warming up. But the warm-up, all these other PTs said your first couple of sets are your warm-up. You're getting in the swing of it, but you're doing the action you're going to go on and do. Yep. Now, it might be that Gareth does skipping or boxing or rowing or stuff that needs muscles.
Yeah. I didn't actually ask what he did.
Yeah.
I can find out. Thanks for that. Anything in your mailbag? So that was one from Gareth, but have you got any bulges?
Just one that the person I mentioned who mentioned about the mistake on the calories for a pound of fat mentioned that there was which I haven't checked, but I'm sure he's right. Mentioned that there's a film coming out about Kellogg with Anthony Hopkins playing the.
Okay.
So that might be interesting. It's not going to be a barrel of laughs, is it, to be honest?
Not really.
And I think that was the only one. I did have others. Oh, the other thing was, were we going to sort of mention just... or is this coming up and I've missed it? Just mentioning numbers on where we're at.
I was just about to go. Here's our audience figures.
Okay.
Is that what you'd like to?
Yes.
Go into?
The point I was going to say before you said them was that, and I used the word humble earlier. I was so excited that we're doing this again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel it's like it's an honour to get the ability to be able to do it, and it's an honour that people feedback. And we know from one particular person. In fact, if we went through his mailbag, the person I'm on about.
I'm worried now.
No, the guy who binge listened and then came with so many comments.
Yes.
So we have got a bulging mailbag. I just can't go through all of those.
Yeah, sure.
But I think it's just that bit around. I think what I wanted to say is that the feedback, even I'm more than happy for people to be constructive or to change it. But I think the fact that people then take that effort to get in touch with us that's what's humbling.
Yeah.
They could listen and go, yeah, you're right. But to take that effort it's a big deal, I think.
Yeah, we haven't been asking every 5 minutes.
No.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? We haven't really. We've gone, I'd love your feedback, and people just have.
Yeah.
People can easily just not respond.
Yeah. But I do enjoy it.
Which they do for all our other texts.
and I guess just using like the one you just said with Gareth, part of what we're trying to do here is to pass on stuff around physical and mental health.
Yeah.
And if he goes back to his PT and goes, oh no, you're exactly right because I'm doing sprints and boxing. Or he could question.
Well, you're wrong. I ain't doing warm-up this week, pal.
Mark said.
Yeah. Okay, get straight into it. So, our audience figures. It's good. So, a total plays so far, we've had 216, which gives us an estimated audience of 54.
Okay,
it's all right. Slow and steady.
Good. It's good.
I don't think any of us had any expectations apart from the one. So
we've lost the Texan, though, haven't we?
We haven't heard from them.
I think we did a big enough plug that they would have contacted us.
Yeah.
Have we got any more international there?
I think there's definitely, because you get the stats about who's listening and where.
Yeah.
And the international audience is holding strong at 2%, being in the US. So hopefully that's you never know. We will still hold out for the email from the Texan.
Yeah.
But that's pretty good. You can listen and or subscribe to us on the following apps. I can take a deep breath. This is quite a lot. Are you ready? So Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Chartable, Deezer, Google Podcasts, Listen Notes, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Podcast Addict, Podbean, Radio Public, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Well done for getting this far. Thanks for listening. All links and references to what we've talked about in this episode will be on our show notes. Please give us a follow on our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I was a bit down on Facebook last week, but we're sticking with it. But I think Instagram is probably where we're going to play.
Yeah.
I would have thought. We both like that, don't we? So you can find us on the username at imfinecast. If you prefer long copy and you'd like to write to us, then you can email us at imfinecast@gmail.com. And if you are time poor, then feel free to send us a voice message.
Yeah,
you can do that, can't you?
Love that.
Give us a ring. Actually, don't give us a ring. We haven't got a number. But you can record something on your phone, just email it to us or pop it on social, whatever. So in the next episode, talking about emotions, what grinds our gears, which might make it a 2-hour special. I thought we'd put something about hydration because we haven't covered that as such. But